It's time to settle in for a journey back in time. Grab a blanket, dim the lights, maybe let the soft hum of a fan carry you into the night. If you're as obsessed with history as I am, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from. London, Tokyo, somewhere under the stars. Tonight, we're diving into the heart of the Aztec Empire at its peak in the 15th century. Forget the dusty textbooks or Hollywood's grim take on sacrifice. We're stepping into a world that's vibrant, complex, and pulsing with life. Picture this, a city floating on a lake, pyramids piercing the sky, and a civilization so bold it redefined what an empire could be. Imagine you're standing on the edge of Tenochtitlán, the Aztec capital, in the year 1480. Your feet are on a causeway, a stone road stretching across Lake Texcoco, shimmering under the Mesoamerican sun. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of copal incense, curling up in smoky tendrils from temples that loom like giants in the distance. You hear the deep, rhythmic thud of drums, boom, 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 echoing across the water, a heartbeat that never stops. Around you, canoes glide through canals, their paddles slicing the surface, carrying traders, warriors, and priests. The city is alive, a marvel of engineering and ambition, built on an island where others might have seen only swamp. You're not just in a city, you're in a masterpiece. Look up, and the Temple Mayor dominates the skyline, its twin shrines dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, the war god, and Tlaloc, the rain god, gleaming with fresh paint, red, blue, white. The steps of the pyramid are steep, dizzying, leading to altars where the Aztecs believe the world's balance is maintained. It's awe-inspiring, but there's a knot in your stomach because you know what happens up there. Sacrifice isn't a myth here, it's a sacred duty, woven into the fabric of life. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, there's so much more to this world than the sharp edge of an obsidian blade. Turn your gaze to the streets, where the city buzzes like a hive. You're weaving through a marketplace now, and it's chaos in the best way. Stalls overflow with maize, beans, and chilies, their colors popping against the woven mats. You catch the sweet, earthy aroma of cacao beans, not just a treat but actual money. Imagine paying for your coffee with coffee beans. Merchants are haggling, their voices rising over the chatter of buyers. A woman balances a basket of avocados on her head, dodging a kid chasing a turkey. Feathered headdresses bob in the crowd, their quetzal plumes flashing green and gold, catching the sunlight like living jewels. It's loud, it's colorful, and it's so human. You can almost taste the dust in the air, feel the heat on your skin. This marketplace is a window into daily life, where cacao beans aren't just currency but a reminder of how the Aztecs turned the ordinary into something extraordinary. You could buy a tamale for a few beans, or maybe a cloak if you had a sack full. It's relatable, right? They're shopping, bargaining, living, just like we do, except their Walmart is a sprawling plaza under a sky ruled by gods. And those gods, they're never far from anyone's mind. Every step, every deal, every breath is tied to the divine, to keeping the sun rising and the rains falling. Tenochtitlan wasn't just a city, it was the heart of an empire stretching across modern-day Mexico, from the Pacific to the Gulf. At its height, the Aztec Empire was a powerhouse, binding millions through trade, conquest, and a shared devotion to a pantheon of gods who demanded loyalty and blood. The Aztecs, or Mexica as they called themselves, built this world in just 2 centuries, rising from nomadic outsiders to masters of Mesoamerica. Their story isn't just about temples and sacrifice, it's about ingenuity, resilience, and a spirituality so intense it shaped every corner of their lives. Now, let's zoom out for a second. You're still standing on that causeway, the city sprawling before you, but you're starting to wonder, what was it really like to live here? Not just the dazzling stuff, the pyramids, the feathers, but the grit, the sweat, the fear. How did a farmer or a weaver navigate this world of gods and emperors? And what about those rituals, the ones that make us shudder today? Were they as brutal as we imagine, Or was there something deeper, something sacred, that we're missing? These are the threads we'll pull in the chapters ahead. We'll walk through the lives of commoners, explore the rules of Aztec religion, and meet the priests who held the empire's soul in their hands. We'll even dive into the legacy of Aztec spirituality, echoes of which still dance in Mexico today. Alright, let's leave the dazzling canals and towering pyramids of Tenochtitlan behind for a moment and step into the shoes of someone a bit less glamorous, an Aztec commoner, the backbone of this empire. Imagine you're waking up just before dawn, the air cool and damp, the stars still clinging to the sky. Your home is a simple adobe hut, its walls smoothed by hand, the floor packed earth. You roll off a woven mat, your body stiff from yesterday's labor, and step outside into a world that's already stirring. The village is humble, a cluster of homes surrounded by chinampas, those floating gardens the Aztecs mastered, turning swampy lake water into fertile plots. You grab a digging stick, its wood worn smooth, and head to the fields. The maze is your lifeline, its green stalks swaying like a promise, but also a gamble. One bad season, and hunger creeps closer. You're not just farming, you're wrestling with nature itself. The sun climbs higher, and it's relentless, baking your skin as you work. You're tending maize, beans, squash, the three sisters that keep the Aztecs fed. Your hands move fast, pulling weeds, checking for pests, whispering a quick prayer to Tlaloc, the rain god, because the clouds are looking thin today. Drought is the monster that haunts every farmer here. You've seen it before, crops wilting, children crying, the village rationing what little remains. The nobles in Tenochtitlan don't feel the pinch as hard, but out here, a dry spell is a death sentence. You wipe sweat from your brow and keep going, because stopping isn't an option. By midday, you're back home, the heat forcing a break. Your wife is at the loom, her fingers deftly weaving maguey fibers, tough, spiky plants turned into cloth for cloaks or sacks. The rhythmic clack of the loom fills the air, a counterpoint to the distant hum of village life. You sit together, sharing a meal of tamales, the Aztec equivalent of fast food, but way more interesting. These aren't your average corn husks stuffed with chicken. No, you're biting into steamed dough mixed with beans, chilies, maybe even tadpoles or insects. Protein's protein, and you're not picky. The texture's a bit slimy, but the chili sauce makes it work. You joke about the time your neighbor found a frog in his tamale and called it a delicacy. Life's tough, but you find ways to laugh. Here's where it gets heavier, though. As you eat, you're hyper-aware of the tribute collector who might show up any day. The nobles and the emperor demand their cut, maize, cloth, feathers, even warriors for the army. You're expected to hand over a chunk of your harvest, your wife's weaving, whatever you've got, or face punishment. It's not just taxes, it's a constant pressure, like a stone on your chest. You're not rich, not by a long shot, and every bundle of goods you give away is food your kids won't eat. The empire's glory, those pyramids, those festivals, rests on your labor, and it's a bitter pill to swallow. You grumble under your breath, but you pay up, because defiance means trouble, and trouble means attention you don't want. Then there's the shadow that never leaves, the one that makes your stomach twist, sacrifice. You're not a warrior or a priest, but that doesn't mean you're safe. The gods need blood to keep the sun moving, the rains falling, the world spinning. Most victims are captives from war, but sometimes, especially in desperate times, the priests come for locals. You've heard stories of neighbors chosen to be Ixtiptla, god impersonators, treated like royalty for a year before their hearts are offered up. It's an honor, they say, but you'd rather not find out. Every festival, every ceremony, you hold your breath, praying your name stays off the list. It's not paranoia, it's survival. You love your gods, but you fear them too. Let's pause here, because this is where the Aztec world gets real. You're not just a farmer or a weaver, you're a juggler, balancing devotion, duty, and dread. You pray daily, leaving offerings of maize or copal at a small shrine in your home, asking for protection, for rain, for mercy. You teach your kids the old stories, how the gods sacrificed themselves to create the world, how humans must repay that debt. But you also teach them to work hard, to keep their heads down, to avoid the gaze of those who decide who lives and who climbs the temple steps. It's a tightrope, and you walk it every day. Now, let's talk about those tamales again, because they're more than just lunch, they're a symbol of how the Aztecs made do. Tadpoles, fish, even dog meat sometimes, they used what the land gave them, turning the weird into the everyday. It's kind of genius, right? You're out here, scraping by, and yet you've got this culinary creativity that keeps your family fed. It's not glamorous, but it's resourceful, and that's the core of who you are. You're not the emperor, not a priest, but you're the reason this empire runs. Your maize fills the granaries, your wife's cloth dresses the nobles, your prayers keep the gods listening. The afternoon stretches on, and you're back in the fields, the sun now a fiery disk low in the sky. Your kids are helping, hauling water or gathering firewood, learning the rhythms of this life. You're tired, bone tired, but there's a quiet pride in your work. The Chinepas are thriving, the maize is tall, and for now, the rains have held. You glance at the horizon, where Tenochtitlán's pyramids gleam faintly, and you feel a mix of awe and resentment. That city is your heart, your burden, your everything. You're part of something massive, something divine, but it's a machine that chews up lives like yours to keep turning. As dusk settles, you head home, the air cooling, the stars emerging like scattered jewels. Your family gathers, and you share more tamales, maybe a sip of pulque, that fermented maguey drink that takes the edge off. You tell stories, sing a song, offer a prayer to the gods who watch from above. Life is hard, brutal, even, but it's yours. You've survived another day, outsmarted drought, dodged tribute collectors, kept the gods at bay. You're resilient, not because you're fearless, but because you have no choice. The empire demands it, the gods demand it, and your family depends on it. Now, let's step away from the maize fields and the weight of a commoner's life. Imagine you're an Aztec, waking up to a world where the sun isn't guaranteed to rise. That's the core of their cosmology. Nothing is certain, and everything, sky, earth, life itself, depends on the gods. The Aztecs believed they lived in the fifth sun, the fifth era of creation, after 4 previous worlds were destroyed by floods, jaguars, and chaos. This sun, powered by Huitzilopochtli, the war god, only keeps burning because of human effort. You're taught from childhood that the gods sacrificed themselves to create the world, and now it's your turn to pay them back. Huitzilopochtli needs blood to fight off the darkness, Tlaloc needs offerings to send rain, and Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, demands devotion to keep wisdom flowing. It's a cosmic contract, and breaking it means the end of everything. No pressure, right? This belief system isn't some abstract theology, it's woven into every moment of your life. You're kneeling at a small shrine in your home, offering maize or a brick of your own blood from a maguey thorn, whispering thanks to the gods for another day. These daily prayers are personal, quiet, but they're just the start. The real show happens in the public rituals, massive ceremonies that turn Tenochtitlan into a stage. Picture the Tenochtitlan festival, honoring Tezcatlipoca, the god of fate. The plaza is packed, thousands strong, their faces painted, feathers swaying. Priests in black robes, their hair matted with blood, chant as drums thunder. The air smells of copal and sweat, and you're swept up in the energy, part of something bigger than yourself. These rituals aren't just worship, they're the empire's pulse, reminding everyone who's in charge, gods, priests, and nobles. Speaking of who's in charge, let's talk about how these rituals kept everyone in line. The Aztecs had a strict social ladder, emperor at the top, then nobles, priests, warriors, commoners, and slaves at the bottom. Rituals reinforce this hierarchy like a cosmic org chart. If you're a commoner, you're in the crowd, offering your maize or cloth, watching the nobles and priests take center stage. They're the ones handling the big offerings, the ones who speak to the gods directly. You're essential, sure, but you're not calling the shots. Warriors get a boost, too. Capturing enemies for sacrifice earns them glory, maybe even a step up the social ladder. Even kids are roped in, learning their place through ceremonies like the stretching ritual, where parents tug their limbs to ensure they grow strong for the gods. It's intense, but it works. Everyone knows their role, and the Empire hums along, united by faith. Now, let's get to something that might make you raise an eyebrow, the Ixtipla. This is where Aztec religion gets both beautiful and haunting. An Ixtipla is a person chosen to impersonate a god, and for a time, they're treated like divinity on Earth. Imagine you're picked to be the Ixtipla of Tezcatlipoca during Toxcatl. For a whole year, you're no longer just you, you're the god. You're dressed in fine cloaks, adorned with feathers, fed the best food, and taught to play the flute. Crowds bow as you pass, and you're escorted by priests who treat you like royalty. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Except there's a catch. At the end of the year, you climb the temple steps, and your heart is offered to the sun. It's not a punishment, it's an honor, a sacred duty. The Ixtipla isn't just a victim, they're a bridge between humans and gods, their sacrifice ensuring the world keeps turning. You're revered, celebrated, until the obsidian blade falls. This practice is wild to us, but to the Aztecs, it was profound. The Ixtipla wasn't dragged kicking and screaming, they were prepared, often volunteering or chosen from captives who accepted their role. Some were even trained for years, learning dances, songs, and myths to embody the god perfectly. You might be thinking, no way I'd sign up for that, but in their world, it made sense. The gods gave everything to create the fifth sun, so giving your life back was the ultimate act of balance. Plus, the community saw you as a hero, your name remembered, your sacrifice a story told for generations. It's a strange mix of reverence and finality, and it captures the Aztec mindset. Life is fleeting, but the cosmos is eternal. Let's zoom out and think about what this all means. These beliefs, the gods, the rituals, the Ixtipla, or the Empire's glue. They unified millions across Mesoamerica, from the highlands to the coasts. You're part of a shared story, whether you're a farmer in a village or a priest in Tenochtitlan. The ceremonies, with their music and blood, were a reminder, we're all in this together, keeping the sun alive. But there's a flip side. That unity came with fear. You're always aware the gods are watching, judging. One wrong move, a bad harvest, a failed ritual, and the world could unravel. You're in awe of the priests who wield this power, but you're also terrified of their gaze. It's a tightrope walk, balancing devotion with the dread of divine wrath. The rituals also had a practical side, and here's where it gets sneaky. They justified the Empire's expansion. Huitzilopochtli, the war god, wasn't just a deity, he was a reason to conquer. More wars meant more captives, more sacrifices, more proof the Aztecs were the chosen ones. It's like a feedback loop, faith fuels conquest, conquest fuels faith. If you're a commoner, you might not love the idea of your son marching off to war, but you can't argue with the priests who say it's for the gods. This system kept the Empire strong, but it also kept everyone on edge, from the emperor to the lowliest farmer. As you stand in that crowded plaza, watching the priests raise their blades, you feel it all, pride, fear, wonder. The gods are real to you, their presence as tangible as the sun on your face. You're part of a civilization that's mastered the art of survival, not just through farming or warfare, but through faith. The rituals, from quiet prayers to blood-soaked ceremonies, are your anchor. They tell you who you are, where you belong, and why the world keeps turning. But they also remind you of your place, a cog in a divine machine that demands everything you've got. Let's Let's shift gears now, away from the cosmic dance of gods and rituals, and focus on a single figure who took the Aztec world and bent it to his will. Imagine you're in Tenochtitlan around the 1430s, a time when the Aztec Empire is still finding its footing. The Mexica, as the Aztecs call themselves, are ambitious but not yet unstoppable. They've got rivals breathing down their necks, and their city, while impressive, isn't the juggernaut it'll become. Enter Tlacaelel, a nobleman and advisor to the Tlatoani, the Aztec ruler. He's not the guy wearing the crown, but he's the one whispering in the emperor's ear, shaping the future with every word. Tlacaelel isn't just smart, he's a visionary, the kind of person who sees the chessboard when everyone else is still picking up pawns. His big idea: make religion the backbone of Aztec power and make human sacrifice the fuel that drives it. Tlacaelel's genius was in understanding that faith could do more than unite people, it could justify conquest. He zeroed in on Huitzilopochtli, the war god, the patron of the Mexica. This wasn't just a deity, he was a symbol of Aztec destiny. Tlacaelel pushed the idea that the Aztecs were Huitzilopochtli's chosen people, tasked with feeding him blood to keep the sun rising and the world spinning. It's a bold move, right? Take a god who's already important and elevate him to the center of everything. You're told from childhood that Huitzilopochtli's strength depends on sacrifice, and sacrifice comes from war. More wars, more captives, more offerings. Suddenly, every battle isn't just about land or glory, it's a holy mission. Tlacaelel didn't just codify rituals, he turned them into propaganda, and it worked like a charm. Let's dive into what he actually did, because this guy was hands-on. Tlacaelel served under several rulers, most notably Itzcotl and Montezuma I, and he had a knack for making things official. He standardized the rituals we've been talking about, the offerings, the festivals, the bloodletting. If you're a priest, you're no longer just winging it, you're following Tlacaelel's playbook. He made sure the Temple Mayor, that massive pyramid in Tenochtitlan, wasn't just a temple but a stage for the empire's power. Every sacrifice, every ceremony, was a reminder the Aztecs are in charge and the gods are on their side. He even rewrote history, literally. Tlacaelel ordered old codices burned and new ones created, emphasizing the Mexica's divine right to rule. It's like editing the empire's origin story to make it more epic and a little less messy. Now, let's zoom in on a pivotal moment, the 1450s, when Tlacaelel's reforms hit their peak. The Aztecs are facing crises, famines, floods, and rebellious neighbors. Tlacaelel sees an opportunity. He doubles down on sacrifice, arguing that the gods are angry and need more offerings to restore balance. This isn't just a few captives here and there, we're talking large-scale ceremonies, with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of victims. You're in the crowd, watching as lines of captives, warriors from rival cities, their faces painted, their wrists bound, climb the temple mayor's steps. The drums are deafening, the priest's blades flash, and the air is heavy with copal and something sharper. It's intense, even terrifying, but Tlacaelel's message is clear: this is what keeps the world alive. These ceremonies, like the dedication of the Temple Mayor in 1487, after his time, but built on his vision, became spectacles of power, showing allies and enemies alike that the Aztecs mean business. Here's where Tlacaelel's work gets sneaky. These sacrifices weren't just about appeasing Huitzilopochtli, they were political theater. If you're a rival city, you're not just fighting the Aztec army, you're fighting their gods. Surrendering captives for sacrifice became a form of tribute, a way to keep the peace without outright rebellion. Tlacaelel also invented the Flower Wars, staged battles designed to capture warriors for sacrifice rather than conquer land. It's like a grim version of Capture the Flag, except the stakes are your heart. You're a warrior, and you know these wars are part show, part slaughter, but they keep the Empire's machine running. Tlacaelel's reforms made sacrifice a tool of control, binding the Empire's subjects through fear and faith. Let's talk about the man himself for a second, because Tlacaelel wasn't some cartoon villain twirling a mustache. He was a believer, deeply devoted to the Aztec worldview. You can imagine him pacing the palace, his cloak embroidered with jaguar motifs, arguing that the empire's survival depends on these harsh measures. He wasn't just power-hungry, he was practical. The Aztecs were surrounded by enemies, and unity was their strength. By tying religion to conquest, he gave the Mexica purpose, a reason to keep pushing. He was also a family man, a brother to Montezuma I, and his influence spanned decades, from the 1420s to the 1480s. That's a long time to be the guy pulling the strings, and he did it without ever taking the throne himself. Talk about playing the long game. But let's not sugarcoat it, his reforms had a dark side. The scale of sacrifice he pushed was staggering, and it wasn't just captives who felt the blade. In tough times, even Aztecs could be chosen, especially for rituals like the Ixtiplo we talked about. You're a commoner, and you're proud of your empire, but you're also uneasy. The gods seem hungrier than ever, and Tlacaelel's vision, while unifying, makes you wonder if the cost is too high. The empire's stronger, sure, but the blood flows like rivers, and the fear of being next never quite fades. It's a trade-off, and Tlacaelel knew it. He bet that awe and terror would hold the empire together, and for a while, he was right. So, what's his legacy? Tlacaelel turned the Aztecs into a superpower, not just through might but through myth. He made Huitzilopochtli a household name, sacrifice a fact of life, and Tenochtitlan a city that inspired dread and wonder. You walk through the capital, and you feel his influence, the temples, the rituals, the warriors strutting with pride. He gave the Aztecs an identity, a story that said, "We are the chosen, and we'll do whatever it takes." But he also set the stage for their downfall. The Spanish, when they arrived in 1519, were horrified by the sacrifices, and that gave them a rallying cry to conquer. Tlacaelel's vision made the Aztecs unstoppable, but it also painted a target on their backs. Reflecting on Tlacaelel, you can't help but marvel at his audacity. He wasn't just a politician or a priest, he was an architect of belief, building an empire on the edge of a knife. His reforms blended spirituality and power so seamlessly that you almost forget how radical they were. He took the Aztecs' faith, a raw, chaotic thing, and shaped it into a system that justified everything from war to taxation. You're left wondering, was he a genius or a fanatic? Maybe both. Either way, his shadow looms large, a reminder that ideas can be as mighty as armies. Let's climb higher now, up the steep stone steps of the Temple Mayor, where the air grows thin and the weight of the Aztec world presses down. You're not just an observer anymore, not a farmer or a noble whispering prayers. You're standing at the heart of the empire's most sacred act, human sacrifice. Imagine you're there, in the great plaza of Tenochtitlan. The year is 1487, and the Temple Mayor is being rededicated after a grand expansion. The sun's just cresting the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of gold and crimson. The pyramid looms before you, its 114 steps slick with rain and blood, leading to the altars of Huitzilopochtli, the war god, and Tlaloc, the rain god. The air is thick with copal incense, its sweet, resinous smoke curling upward, mingling with the faint metallic tang of what's to come. Drums pound, deep, relentless, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. You're shoulder to shoulder with thousands, nobles in feathered cloaks, warriors with jaguar pelts, commoners in simple tunics, all eyes fixed on the pyramid's peak. This isn't just a ceremony, it's the cosmos hanging in the balance. The process begins with a procession, slow and deliberate. You see them first from a distance, captives, their wrists bound, their bodies painted with sacred symbols, or perhaps volunteers, their faces calm, almost otherworldly. Some are Ixtipla, those god impersonators we talked about, who've spent months or even a year living as deities, draped in fine cloth, adorned with quetzal feathers, revered by all. Others are warriors from rival cities, captured in battle or the staged flower wars, their pride unbroken despite their fate. They climb the steps, one by one, escorted by priests in black robes, their hair matted with dried blood, their faces streaked with ash. The crowd is silent, save for the drums and the low hum of chants. You feel the weight of it, the solemnity, like the world itself is watching. At the top, the priests move with precision, their movements honed by years of practice. The sacrificial stone is a slab of greenstone, curved to stretch the victim's chest taut. 4 priests hold the offering, arms and legs bent, while a 5th, the high priest, raises an obsidian blade, its edge sharper than any steel. The act is swift, almost surgical. A single cut, a flash of black glass, and the heart is lifted, still pulsing, offered to the sun. The crowd exhales, a collective release, as the body is rolled down the steps, a crimson trail marking its path. Another ascends, then another. The rhythm is relentless, each sacrifice a plea to keep the 5th sun burning, to fend off the darkness that devoured the worlds before. Let's step into the minds of those involved, because this isn't just a spectacle, it's personal. If you're an Ixtipla, you're not just a victim, you're a god made flesh. For months, you've been treated like royalty, fed maize and amaranth, taught sacred dances, your every step a prayer. You're Tezcatlipoca or Totec, embodying their power, their will. As you climb the pyramid, your heart pounds, but there's a strange peace, too. You believe, truly believe, that your death will renew the world, that your blood will fuel Huitzilopochtli's fire. The crowd doesn't pity you, they honor you, chanting your divine name. Your family, if they're watching, will carry your memory as a badge of pride. It's not fear driving you, but purpose, a conviction that your life's final act is the ultimate gift. Now, imagine you're a warrior, one of the eagle or jaguar knights who captured the man now on the stone. You're standing tall in the plaza, your macuhuitl, a wooden club studded with obsidian, slung across your back, your cloak adorned with the belts of your rank. Every captive you've brought to the temple is a mark of glory, a step toward nobility, maybe even a seat among the elite. You remember the battle, the clash of weapons, the moment you overpowered your foe. Bringing him here isn't just duty, it's your legacy. You glance at the pyramid, the blood running like a river, and you feel a surge of pride, tempered by a quiet dread. You know the gods are watching, and one day, it could be you climbing those steps, captured by an enemy's hand. Glory and mortality are 2 sides of the same obsidian blade. If you're in the crowd, a commoner or a noble, you're caught in a whirlwind of emotions. You're awed by the spectacle, the sheer scale of it, hundreds, maybe thousands, sacrificed over days for a major festival. You're proud of your empire, its power etched in every heartbeat offered. But there's fear, too, a knot in your gut. The gods are hungry, always hungry, and while today it's captives, tomorrow it could be someone you know, or worse, you. You clutch your offering, a small bundle of maize or a clay figurine, and pray your devotion is enough. The priests say this is necessary, that without blood, the sun will falter, the rains will dry, the world will end. You believe them, but that doesn't make it easier to watch. This is the paradox of Aztec sacrifice, and it's what makes it so gripping. To us, it's brutal, almost unthinkable, a slaughter on a scale that feels like madness. But to the Aztecs, it's sacred, a necessity as vital as water or air. You're not watching a crime, you're witnessing a covenant with the divine. The gods gave their lives to create the 5th sun, tearing out their own hearts to set the cosmos in motion. Humans, in turn, must repay that debt, offering their own blood to keep the cycle going. It's not cruelty for cruelty's sake, it's reciprocity, a brutal kind of gratitude. The Ixtipla's calm, the warrior's pride, the crowd's reverence, they all stem from this belief that sacrifice is the glue holding the universe together. Yet, there's no escaping the cost. If you're a captive, your final moments are a blur of pain and defiance. You're far from home, family lost to you, your god silent. You might curse the Aztecs, or you might face your end with stoic resolve, hoping your own deities will honor your death. If you're a priest, the weight of your role is crushing. You're not just killing, you're mediating between worlds, your hands slick with blood, your soul tethered to the god's will. You've trained for this, fasted, prayed, but each cut takes something from you, a piece you'll never get back. Even the crowd, for all their faith, must feel the strain, watching life after life offered up, knowing the god's appetite never truly fades. Let's linger on that paradox a bit longer, because it's the heart of the Aztec world. Sacrifice was glory, glory for the warrior who earned his rank, glory for the Extipla who became divine, glory for an empire that proved its might with every heart raised. But it was also necessity, a grim duty to keep the sun rising, the maize growing, the empire standing. You can't help but wonder, what does it do to a people, to live with this duality? To see blood as both sacred and terrifying, to know your survival depends on someone else's end. It's a tension that defined the Aztecs, making them fierce, devout, and hauntingly human. Let's step away from the blood-slicked steps of the Templo Mayor and into a different kind of spectacle, one where the Aztec world transforms into a stage, alive with music, dance, and costumes that blur the line between the mortal and the divine. Imagine you're standing in the great plaza of Tenochtitlan, the month of March in the Aztec calendar, around 1480. The Tlaquetzalcoatlistli festival, literally the flaying of men, is in full swing, a 20-day extravaganza dedicated to Totec, the god of spring, agriculture, and rebirth. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of copal incense and blooming flowers, a reminder that this is a time of renewal, when the earth sheds its dry skin for new growth. You're surrounded by thousands, their faces painted red and yellow, their bodies adorned with feathers and beads. The Templo Mayor looms in the distance, but the action is here, in the open plaza, where rituals unfold like a choreographed drama, every movement steeped in meaning. The heart of this festival is its theatricality, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. Priests, their bodies smeared with sacred pigments, emerge wearing the flayed skins of sacrificial victims. These aren't just costumes, they're sacred vessels, embodying Totec himself, who wears human skin to symbolize the earth's renewal, like a seed bursting through its husk. The skins are fresh, carefully prepared, and draped over the priests' bodies, glistening under the sun. You can't look away, it's eerie, grotesque, but also mesmerizing. The priests move with deliberate grace, their steps a dance, their arms raised as if calling the rains. To the Aztecs, this isn't horror, it's transformation, a divine act that mirrors the cycle of life. You feel the crowd's awe, their belief that these priests are channeling the god, bringing spring to the world. The preparations for this spectacle are a production in themselves, and they start weeks in advance. You're behind the scenes now, in the temple precincts, where priests and artisans are hard at work. Musicians carve conch shells into trumpets, their surfaces etched with sacred symbols. You hear the first test blasts, low, resonant wails that cut through the air like a god's voice. These shells, called Texistli, aren't just instruments, they're a call to the divine, signaling the ritual start. Meanwhile, dancers rehearse intricate steps, their bodies trained to mimic the god's movements, each gesture a prayer. You watch them practice, their feet pounding the earth, their feathered headdresses swaying like living flames. It's exhausting, sacred work, fueled by fasting and devotion. Then there's the crafting of the tools, and this is where the Aztecs' artistry shines. You're in a workshop now, where artisans chip away at obsidian, volcanic glass as black as midnight, shaping it into blades so sharp they can split a hair. These aren't just weapons, they're sacred objects, handled with reverence, their edges gleaming like the promise of divine favor. The artisans work in silence, their hands steady, knowing each blade will serve the gods. Other craftsmen weave costumes, cloaks of quetzal feathers, jaguar pelts, and maguey fibers dyed in brilliant reds and blues. You run your fingers over the fabric, feeling the weight of the embroidery, the softness of the feathers. Every stitch is a prayer, every color a symbol, turning the wearer into a walking codex of Aztec belief. Now, let's talk about the sound, because no Aztec ritual is complete without music, and this is where an obscure detail steals the show, the Tenochtitlán drums. Picture a pair of these instruments, hollow logs carved with intricate designs, their tops slit to form two tongues that resonate when struck. You're close enough to hear their haunting tones, deep and mournful, like the earth itself is singing. The drummers use wooden mallets, their rhythms complex, shifting from slow pulses to frantic beats that mirror the ritual's intensity. The Tenochtitlán aren't just background noise, they set the pace, guiding dancers, priests, and even the crowd's emotions. You feel the vibrations in your chest, a reminder that this performance isn't just for humans, it's for the gods, who listen from above. The festival's climax is a series of dances and mud battles, and it's here that the theatrical elements really shine. You're watching warriors, their bodies painted to resemble jaguars or eagles, clash in staged combats, their macuottles flashing but never drawing blood. These are the gladiatorial fights of Tenochtitlán, where captives are tethered to a stone and given mock weapons to face elite warriors. It's less a fight than a ritual, a dance of death that ends with the captive's sacrifice. The crowd roars, not out of cruelty, but because this is the moment of renewal, when Tenochtitlan's power flows into the earth. You're caught up in it, the energy infectious, even as your modern mind recoils at the outcome. The priests in their flayed skins lead the dances, their movements slow at first, then frenzied, as if the god himself is stirring within them. You see young boys, trained for years, join in, their small bodies adorned with miniature versions of the priest's costumes, learning the steps that will carry this tradition forward. Women, too, participate, their voices rising in chants, their hands clapping to the Tenochtitlan's rhythm. It's a community effort, every role scripted, every gesture perfected. You realize this isn't just a ritual, it's a performance, a story told through bodies, music, and blood, designed to awe the crowd and please the gods. Let's reflect on what this means, because these performances weren't just about worship, they were power in motion. If you're the emperor, watching from a raised platform, you see your empire's might reflected in every step, every drumbeat. The priests, with their flayed skins, aren't just holy, they're a walking reminder of your authority, your ability to command life and death. If you're a commoner, you're swept up in the spectacle, your devotion to the gods reinforced by the sheer scale of it all. The rituals bind you to the empire, to the nobles, to the priests, in a way that's both beautiful and intimidating. It's propaganda, sure, but it's also art, a masterpiece of choreography and symbolism that leaves you feeling small yet part of something vast. This blurring of art, religion, and power is what makes Aztec rituals so fascinating. The Tenochtitlan festival wasn't just a religious duty, it was a cultural event, like a play or a concert, but with stakes higher than any Broadway show. The costumes, the music, the dances, they were crafted with the same care as a painter's canvas or a poet's verse. Yet they served a purpose beyond beauty. They reinforced the Aztec worldview, where sacrifice was renewal, where blood was life. You can't help but admire the creativity, even as you grapple with the brutality. It's like watching a masterpiece painted in shades of crimson, both stunning and unsettling. The festival stretches on, day after day, each performance building on the last. You're exhausted just watching, imagining the priest's stamina, the dancer's precision, the drummer's relentless rhythm. As the final day approaches, the flayed skins are buried or burned, a final offering to Tenochtitlan, and the plaza grows quiet. The maize fields beyond the city are stirring, green shoots pushing through the earth, as if the god has answered. You feel a strange mix of emotions, wonder at the artistry, unease at the cost, pride in the empire's devotion. This is the Aztec world, where every act is a performance, every performance a prayer. Let's step back from the vibrant plazas of Tenochtitlan, where drums and dances wove the Aztec world into a tapestry of faith and power, and look at what remains. Picture yourself in the heart of the Aztec Empire, before the fall, when rituals were the glue holding millions together. These weren't just ceremonies, they were the heartbeat of Aztec identity. If you're an Aztec, your life revolves around the gods, Huitzilopochtli's fire, Tlaloc's rain, Totec's renewal. Every prayer, every offering, every festival binds you to your neighbors, your city, your empire. You're part of a cosmic story, one that says the world depends on your devotion. This shared faith gave the Aztecs a sense of purpose, a reason to endure drought, tribute, and the ever-present shadow of sacrifice. It's like a thread running through every village, every chinampa, every temple, stitching the Mexica into a single, unbreakable whole. This unity was their strength, especially when the Spanish arrived. You're in Tenochtitlan in 1521, and the world is unraveling. Cortez and his men, backed by rival tribes, lay siege to the city. The canals run red, the temples burn, and the drums fall silent. Yet, even as the empire crumbles, the Aztecs fight with a ferocity that shocks their enemies. Why? Because their rituals taught them resilience. You've grown up believing the gods demand sacrifice to keep the sun rising, and that same belief fuels your defiance. You're not just fighting for land or power, you're fighting for the cosmos, for the fifth sun itself. Even in defeat, that spiritual core holds firm, a spark that refuses to be snuffed out. But let's not romanticize it, the conquest was devastating. The Spanish outlawed Aztec rituals, tore down temples, and imposed Christianity with a seal that left little room for the old ways. You're a survivor, hiding your small clay idols, whispering prayers to Quetzalcoatl under your breath, but it's dangerous. The priests are gone, the codices burned, the festivals forbidden. Yet, something endures. The Aztec spirituality was too deep, too woven into the land, to be erased completely. You see it in the way people blend Catholic saints with old gods, St. John with Tlaloc, the Virgin Mary with Tenochtitlan, the Mother Goddess. It's a quiet rebellion, a way to keep the past alive under a new mask. One of the greatest treasures of this legacy is the codices, those painted books that captured the Aztec world. You're holding the Codex Bourbonicus now, its pages brittle but vibrant, filled with images of gods, calendars, and rituals. This codex, created just after the conquest, is a snapshot of Aztec spirituality, showing the festivals like Tlaquetzalcoatl, the cycles of the 260-day ritual calendar, the gods in their feathered glory. It's not just art, it's a defiance, a record kept by Nahua scribes who refuse to let their story die. Other codices, like the Codex Mendoza, detail tribute and daily life, preserving the rhythms of the empire. These books, hidden from Spanish eyes, were a lifeline, a way for the Aztecs to say, we were here, and we still are. Fast forward to today, and you're in modern Mexico, where the Aztec legacy is alive in ways that would make those old priests proud. You're at a festival in Mexico City, maybe the Day of the Dead, where skulls and marigolds echo the Aztecs' reverence for death as part of life's cycle. But it's not just Dia de los Muertos. Aztec dances, called conqueros or danza azteca, are performed in plazas and streets, their participants decked out in feathers, ankle rattles, and vibrant cloaks. You hear the beat of Huitl drums, see dancers move in circles, their steps a direct link to rituals like Toxcatl or Tlaquetzalcoatl. These aren't just performances, they're a reclaiming of heritage, a nod to the gods who still linger in the collective memory. These revivals aren't just for show, they're a way for modern Mexicans to connect with their roots. You're talking to a dancer, a young woman whose headdress glitters with quetzal green feathers. She tells you her family has danced for generations, passing down steps that honor Totec or Huitzilopochtli. It's not about sacrifice anymore, but about identity, pride, and resistance against a history that tried to erase her ancestors. You see it in community festivals, too, where people offer copal and maize at altars, blending Aztec and Catholic traditions. Even in rural villages, farmers still pray for rain, their words echoing Tlaloc's ancient call. It's a living legacy, proof that the Aztec spirituality didn't just survive, it adapted, like a seed finding new soil. Let's zoom out and think about why this matters. The Aztecs' rituals, extreme as they were about finding meaning in a world that could be harsh and unpredictable. You're an Aztec farmer, facing drought, or a warrior staring down death, and rituals give you a framework, a reason to keep going. That drive isn't unique to the Aztecs, it's universal. Think about it, every culture has its ceremonies, from weddings to funerals to holidays, ways to mark time, to connect with something bigger. The Aztecs took it to an extreme, sure, with blood and flayed skins, but the impulse is the same. You light a candle, say a prayer, join a dance, and suddenly you're not alone, you're part of a story that stretches beyond your lifetime. This universal need for ritual makes the Aztec legacy relatable, even across centuries. You're in a modern city, maybe not in Mexico, but you've got your own rituals, morning coffee, a playlist for tough days, a family tradition that grounds you. The Aztecs remind us that humans are meaning makers, always reaching for something to explain the chaos. Their spirituality, with its gods and sacrifices, was their answer, and it gave them the strength to build an empire, to face conquest, to leave a mark that endures. You can't help but respect that, even if the methods make you shiver. But let's not gloss over the complexity. The Aztecs' rituals were unifying, yes, but they also divided. Conquered peoples resented the demand for tribute and captives, and that resentment fueled alliances with the Spanish. The legacy of sacrifice is a sore spot, too. Modern Mexicans honor their heritage but don't shy away from its darker side. You're at a museum, staring at an obsidian blade, and you feel the weight of history, not just pride, but the pain of those who climbed the temple steps. The Aztec story is a reminder that spirituality can be both a balm and a blade, healing and harming in equal measure. As you stand in that imagined plaza, watching dancers spin under a modern sky, you feel the thread of history pulling tight. The Codex Borbonicus, with its vivid gods, sits in a Paris library, but its spirit dances here, in the streets of Mexico. The rituals that shaped the Aztecs, those prayers, those drums, those offerings, live on, not as relics but as a pulse, a reminder of a people who refuse to be forgotten. You're struck by their resilience, their ability to weave faith into every corner of life, even when the world turned against them. It's a legacy that's both specific to Mexico and universal, a testament to the human need to find meaning, no matter the cost. We've journeyed through the vibrant, brutal, and awe-inspiring world of the Aztecs, from the shimmering canals of Tenochtitlan to the blood-stained steps of the Templo Mayor, from the resilient lives of commoners to the haunting dances of priests and flayed skins. Now, let's step back, take a deep breath, and reflect on what it all means. You're no longer a farmer tending maize or a warrior seeking glory. You're standing on the edge of history, looking at the Aztec Empire as a mirror for something bigger, something human. This is about faith, power, and survival, and how they intertwine to shape not just an empire, but the way we all make sense of the world. Picture the ruins of Tenochtitlan under a quiet, starry sky, and let's unravel the echoes of this lost world, a story that's as universal as it is unique. Let's start with the heart of the Aztec story, the interplay of faith, power, and survival. The way belief in gods like Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc drove the Aztecs to extraordinary heights and harrowing depths. Faith wasn't just a private prayer, it was the engine of their empire. You're an Aztec, and your daily offerings, your dances, your sacrifices aren't just rituals, they're acts of survival, keeping the sun rising, the rains falling, the maize growing. This faith gave you purpose, a reason to endure drought, tribute, and the constant threat of the obsidian blade. It's why you'd climb those temple steps, heart pounding, believing your death would save the world. Faith was your anchor, your fire, your reason to keep going. But faith didn't exist in a vacuum, it was tangled up with power. You've seen how Tlacaelel, that cunning advisor, turned religion into a tool of control, making Huitzilopochtli the poster child for Aztec conquest. The Temple of Mayor wasn't just a holy site, it was a stage for the empire's might, where every heart offered was a message: we are the chosen, and we will not fall. Priests, nobles, and emperors wielded faith like a scepter, uniting the empire but also keeping everyone in line. If you're a commoner, you feel the weight of this power every time you hand over your harvest or watch a captive climb the pyramid. It's awe-inspiring, sure, but it's also a reminder of your place in the hierarchy, a cog in a divine machine that demands your loyalty. Survival, though, is where it all comes together. The Aztec world was harsh. Drought could starve you, or could claim you. The gods could turn their backs. Yet, you've seen their resilience. The farmer who prays to Tlaloc while planting maize, the dancer who channels Totec to bring spring, the codices scribed in secret after the Spanish conquest. Survival wasn't just about staying alive, it was about holding on to meaning, about believing that your actions, your blood, your sweat, your prayers, mattered. You're struck by how the Aztecs faced a world of uncertainty and built a civilization that thrived, not despite the odds, but because of their unyielding drive to endure. It's a kind of stubborn hope, a refusal to let the fifth sun fade. This brings us to a universal lesson, one that resonates whether you're in 15th century Tenochtitlan or today's world. Societies create meaning through shared beliefs, even under the toughest conditions. The Aztecs are a stark example, their rituals extreme but their impulse familiar. You don't have to look far to see it. Think of the traditions that bind your own life, the stories you tell, the ceremonies you hold. Maybe it's a family dinner every Sunday, a flag raised on a holiday, or a quiet moment of reflection before bed. These are your rituals, your way of saying, this matters, this keeps us together. The Aztecs took it to the edge, offering hearts to the sun, but the core is the same. Humans crave meaning, and we'll build it out of whatever we've got, even when the world feels like it's falling apart. You see this in how the Aztecs' beliefs unified them. Their rituals, daily prayers, grand festivals, even the terrifying Ixtipla, gave everyone a role, from the emperor to the farmer. You're part of a cosmic story, a shared mission to keep the gods appeased and the world spinning. That unity was their strength, letting them conquer rivals, build a city on a lake, and leave a legacy that outlasted their empire. But it wasn't perfect. Those same beliefs alienated conquered peoples, who chafed under tribute and sacrifice, and gave the Spanish a wedge to drive into the empire's heart. You're left wondering, what's the cost of unity? How do you balance shared faith with the diversity of human experience? It's a question we still grapple with in our own societies, our own search for meaning. Let's bring it closer to home. You're walking through modern Mexico, where the Aztecs' echoes are everywhere. The Day of the Dead, with its marigold altars, feels like a nod to the Aztecs' reverence for death as part of life. Aztec dances, with their feathered headdresses and drumming, carry the rhythm of Tlaxcatl or Tlaquexipolistley into the present. Even the language, nahuatl words like Zacatl, chocolate, or tamatl, tomato, is a living thread, spoken by over 1 million people today. You're struck by how these fragments of the past aren't just relics, they're proof of a people who refuse to be erased, who wove their spirituality into the fabric of a new world. It's a reminder that meaning, once created, has a way of enduring, like a seed buried in ash that still finds a way to bloom. But the Aztec story isn't just about Mexico, it's about us, all of us. You're sitting in your room, the world outside full of its own uncertainties, and you feel that same human urge to make sense of it. Maybe you don't pray to Huitzilopochtli, but you've got your own rituals, your own ways of holding the darkness at bay. The Aztecs teach us that faith, in whatever form, is a tool for survival, a way to face the unknown and say, I'm still here. Their world was extreme, blood, sacrifice, gods with unpronounceable names, but their drive was universal. You can't help but respect their audacity, their ability to build a civilization on the edge of a volcano, fueled by belief and grit. There's a flip side, though, and it's worth pausing on. The Aztecs' faith gave them strength, but it also blinded them. Their obsession with sacrifice, codified by Tlacaelel, made enemies of neighbors and gave the Spanish a moral excuse to conquer. You wonder, what happens when belief becomes rigid, when it justifies harm? It's a cautionary tale, one that echoes in our own time, where shared beliefs can unite but also divide, inspire but also destroy. The Aztecs' legacy is a mirror, showing us the power of faith and the peril of wielding it without question. You're left with a mix of admiration and unease, a sense that meaning is a double-edged blade. Now, let's paint a final picture, one to carry you into the night. You're standing in the ruins of Tenochtitlan, what's now Mexico City's Zocalo. The temple mirrors a shadow of its former glory, its stones weathered, its altars silent. But the sky above is alive, a canopy of stars glittering like the eyes of the gods. The air is cool, the city quiet, and you can almost hear the whispers of the past, the clatter of cacao beans in the marketplace, the thud of Tepinestli drums, the chants of priests offering hearts to the sun. These ruins aren't just relics, they're storytellers, holding the memories of an empire that loved, fought, and dreamed under this same sky. You feel a connection, not just to the Aztecs, but to every soul who's ever looked up and wondered, what's it all for? The Aztec world, with its faith and fury, its beauty and brutality, reminds us that we're all part of a larger story, one we write with every choice, every ritual, every moment of courage. Their drums may have fallen silent, but their echoes linger in the dances of modern Mexico, in the codices that survived, in the human need to find meaning no matter the odds. So, as you settle in, let those echoes carry you. Dim the lights, pull up the covers, and imagine the starry sky above Tenochtitlan, its secrets whispering through time. For now, drift into sleep with the rhythm of Aztec drums in your mind, a gentle reminder that the past is never truly gone, it's just waiting for you to listen. Good night, and sweet dreams.